What's poppin', everybody? This is Cerebral54 here with a rant today. I probably should have talked about this ages ago, since we've had the Sword and Shield set for a while. But today I'm going to discuss playing first or playing second. I guess going first versus going second. So when the new rule changes were announced, I did make a video talking about like cards that would gain value from these new rule changes and cards that would kind of maybe not be so good, like supporters like Brigitte, Elm, stuff that you can't really use turn one, but they're all about getting Pokemon, basic Pokemon. And I don't want to say I was kind of wrong with saying some cards did sort of become worse and some become better, but I feel like just maybe not much has changed. Things definitely did change, but I feel like for the people that didn't want things to change, they can just easily just build the decks the way they always did, and then just decide to go second all the time if they win the coin flip. The problem with that is that if your opponent does win the coin flip and then they force you to go first, then your deck isn't really built to respond. So the question is, which is better to do? Which is it better to go first or go second? I guess the easy sort of a summary answer is just the easiest thing to say is it depends on the deck, which is true. But there's ways you can tweak your decks to have a benefit to going first and second, or just at least try and have a little balance. So going first before the new rule changes, it was almost always the standard for everyone because if you're trying to evolve Pokemon, whether stage 1 or stage 2, you want to go first, get them out quickly. You weren't going to make a significant attack turn 1 anyway, so what's the point? So just playing first, it was pretty much standard, like no questions asked. A player that goes first usually has a slight advantage. Now, a few exceptions like Night March decks, or maybe some decks that wanted to get a significant attack, like let's say the Volcanion fire decks that would make use of that Volcanion, and just some other combos that you gotta go second to use. But those are pretty specific. Now, with the new rule changes, obviously you can't use supporters, so if you play first, whether you're running stage 1, stage 2, or whatever, if you can't play a supporter, then you can't really dig for your Pokemon. You have to use cards like Quick Ball or just other item searchers, maybe an ability. So that's why they gave us the Quick Ball in the first Sword and Shield set. I swear, if they didn't give us that card, things would be a complete mess. Like the player going second would have had like even bigger advantage. So cards like the Dene and in expanded cards like the Shaman, they were always popular before, but they're basically mandatory now. If you want to go first, you gotta dig for those guys and just try and draw through those Pokemon and get your Pokemon down. I thought about like the Silvally that lets you draw cards. I thought that Pokemon was going to be really good. People were going to try and get that guy out now a lot more and just have that sort of draw Pokemon. Since you can't use a supporter turn 1, then you might as well just use balls to get that guy out and then start drawing. But I think I was more miss than hit. I think there's some decks that use that guy, but it didn't become as popular as I thought it would be. Oh well. So the thing is with me, I thought that maybe going first, it's still the way to go because if you can mitigate the downside of not playing a supporter, like if you can draw through stuff like the Dene, set up the Pokemon, it's almost like the rule changes didn't even happen, and then you still have that advantage. But if you can't do that, then obviously it sucks. I thought that I really wanted to keep going first, but in a lot of decks I noticed that I just still opt to go second, and I just prefer to go second because you think to yourself, well, if I could just go second, it's like I was going second in the old days, so just play the supporters, play everything at normal, like normal. I don't have to worry about the hand that I'm going to get. If I get a supporter or a bunch of supporters, then I can still use them. And it's pretty true because there's a lot of games where people have the same philosophy, and if they win the coin flip, they force me to go first. Now, it's always great when they force you to go first, and you have the right cards to draw and just get your Pokemon out. But when you don't, like when you have like a bunch of supporters and just not much else, then it just really sucks because it's like you're in lockdown essentially. Yeah, go figure. It's like you get to play first, you don't get to do anything, and your opponent gets all the benefits of going second, and it's like they're going first pretty much. So that's not good. So is it better to go second or go first? So some decks that I like to go second are, well, it's pretty much all of them at this point, but I guess a deck that I do want to go first is a deck that needs to get a specific, like a very significant stage 2 Pokemon out. Like, I'm talking about decks that use stuff like Emboar, Blastoise, I suppose, yeah, the newer Blastoise from Team Up, those kinds of energy acceleration Pokemon, where it's just paramount you get them as soon as possible to do anything. Those decks, I would still kind of opt to go first and build the deck to play first. So with the Dana GXs, lots of searching balls and stuff, cherish balls, quick balls, search that guy out. The problem is that even if you do that, it doesn't always work. Like you might still not get the Magnemite or the Squirtle. So it's always that risk. Decks like the Dark Box that I use in Expanded, decks like what else, like any eel decks. Like I pretty much just always go second at this point and just say fuck it. And I really just feel like it's just like the DP days again, where these new rule changes make it so that going second is just better. It's just easier. It's better. You don't have to worry too much with the hand you're gonna get. And I know that there's a lot of people that have very consistent decks and still choose to go first and expand it, especially with stuff like the Shamans and other decks. Stuff like Arceus, I think that deck just really benefits going first or second, which is why it's still so strong. I mean, you look at decks like these, cards like that, and this is why they're top tier and they remain top tier because of all the versatility they have. Arceus decks, if they go second, it means they're going to get that GX attack super quick in all probability. They can use Guzma Hala too if they use that. And that's so busted, that GX attack. Now if they go first, then if they're just basic Pokemon decks, like they don't really want to get stage 1, stage 2s out, they can be like, okay, I'm gonna get a few guys out, whatever I can, and get my free energy attachment. And you probably won't be able to do much either when you go second. So we'll see what happens depending on your deck. So that's why Arceus is just good, whether it plays first or second. Another deck, like the Lightning decks, the Zekrom decks, that one also benefits from going either first or second, depending on the build. It's just decks build around like super consistency. They just go all out and just try and get the game over quick or gain control of the game really quickly and just gain a lot of advantage. Like that Zekrom deck, with all the Dodana GXs with the radar, you can use to search those guys out. Running play sets of switches and energy switches and all that stuff. It's easy for them to say, fuck it, I'm just gonna dump everything, I gotta draw, and it's all good. It's all good in the hood. But I suppose no matter how I think about it, it's just going second is better. There's a lot of specific supporters like Lily too, like if you want to make use of her. Other cards like Jasmine and other cards that just have that effect where you gotta go second to get the plus. I mean, you have that as an incentive too. I mean, you can't really make use of those cards if you play first. And that's another thing. I mean, if you do run cards like Lily in your deck, if your opponent forces you to play first, then you kind of lose that plus with those cards, no matter what. It's a bit sad. It's a bit sad. So, I mean, I guess you could build your deck to go first, have all of those quick balls, all of those cherish balls, and just maybe just try and get a Pokemon like Silverleaf GX out and just be like how the Claydol days used to be. But I guess since people aren't opting to go with that, then maybe it's the best thing, as I'm not the best player in the world. I haven't checked like tournament reports and stuff. There's not really any tournaments going around now anyway, with all the quarantines and the lockdowns. But I don't really believe tactics like these caught on. It's just people favoring decks that can benefit from going first or second, and just splashing Arceus into everything. Should you go first or second? Depends on the deck, but I think going second is better. And I usually go second, to be honest. I think it's evident in all of the matches that I play. I just usually try and go second. The best thing you can do is have your deck sort of be ready, even if your opponent forces you to play first. You do have answers. Like if you have a lot of stuff like Bridgettes and Elms in your deck, always hoping to go second, and then they force you to play first. If those are your main methods of getting basic Pokemon, then you're screwing yourself. So that's not good. So I feel like some cards like Bridget and Elm and all these cards are kind of riskier to use, and it's just better to try and use item Pokemon searches. I mean, it means you need to run a lot more cards in your deck, as just using a Bridget would get you a bunch of basics in one card. But it's just a reality. I mean, if they force you to play first, like unless you're really confident in that you can use the Dene and stuff, and the Bridgettes and those kinds of cards you have in your deck are okay, they're not gonna mess you up, then that's the only way. But that's my rant. Pretty pretty random. Just some thoughts, really. You guys can tell me in the comments what do you guys think. Do you prefer to go first? Do you prefer to go second? With what decks do you prefer to go first or second? Or do you just prefer one over the other all the time? So I've been Saber054. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you guys for watching. What say?